Welcome to my channel Louis Dalla. Subscribe, like and hit the notification bell. Comment our idea below. 10 of the best cabins in the Canadian woods. The US election result has driven some Americans to search for a way out across the northern border, so many that the website for Canadian immigration has been crashing from demand. For those keeping that daydream alive, here are 10 cabins in Canada that would be perfect to escape to. From a 1970s-style ski chalet to a mirrored lake cottage, these hideaways are perfectly serene and off-grid. Before we get started with the video, click the link in the description on how to start your woodworking business. 1. Rabbit Snare Gorge Cabin by Design Base 8 and Omar Gandhi. Plates of weathering steel frame the tall doorway to this timber-clad home, designed by architects Design Base 8 and Omar Gandhi for a remote site on Canada's Cape Breton. The cabin was built for an arborist and outdoor pursuits enthusiast among the rugged landscape of Rabbit Snare Gorge, from which it takes its name, on a 46-acre (6.5-hectare) parcel of land. 2. Fahouse by Jean Verville. Canadian architect Jean Verville designed this cabin in rural Quebec with dark metal cladding and pointy roofs that seems to emerge from a children's story. The holiday dwelling is situated on a gently sloping site in a hemlock forest in Eastern Townships, a region in southeastern Quebec. 3. Mountainside Cabin by Scott & Scott. The A-frame exterior of this mountainside cabin was designed by Canadian studio Scott & Scott to mimic neighboring 1970s chalets. The property, which sits on a steeply sloping rock face in a residential area to the north of Whistler Village, was designed as a weekend retreat for a family of snowboarders. 4. Villa Boréale by Cargo Architecture. Canadian studio Cargo Architecture used a restrained materials palette for this woodland vacation cottage, which has a swing seat and a wood store built into its facade. Called the Villa Boréale, the cabin is located in Charlevoix, an eastern region in Quebec that is known for its wooded valleys, skiable mountains and breathtaking views. 5. Rainforest Retreat by Agathom. This wooden artist's retreat is nestled among trees on Vancouver Island, off the British Columbia coast. It acts as both a home and art studio for its owner, who asked Toronto firm Agathom to create a simple building with a small footprint and plentiful natural light. 6. Lake Cottage by UUfie. This extension to a woodland home in Ontario by Canadian studio UUfie features charred cedar walls and a mirrored entrance. Japanese architect Iri Oda and Canadian architect Irene Gardpoit-Chan of UUfie designed the small cabin, named Lake Cottage, to add large living and dining rooms to a family house beside the Kawartha Lakes. 7. Alpine Cabin by Scott & Scott Architects. Vancouver studio Scott & Scott Architects created this remote snowboarding cabin for their own use at the northern end of Vancouver Island. The Alpine Cabin by Susan and David Scott is lifted off the ground on 6 columns made of Douglas fir tree trunks, which pierce through the rooms on both stories. 8. La Maison Haute by Atelier Pierre Thibault. This holiday home in rural Quebec has a giant window wall that provides expansive views of the scenic terrain. Called La Maison Haute, the dwelling is located in a remote area of Quebec near Lake Claire. The cabin sits atop a plateau, and is surrounded by mature trees and a river. 9. Kicking Horse Residence by Bohlin Sawinski Jackson. American firm Bohlin Sawinski Jackson designed this wooden lodge as the holiday home for a family at the Kicking Horse Mountain Ski Resort. Kicking Horse Residence was designed as a weekend retreat that can accommodate the family and their guests but can also be left unoccupied for long periods of time. 10. Lake Jasper House by Architecturama. A turquoise staircase runs diagonally across the facade of this cube-shaped home in rural Quebec, designed by Montreal studio Architecturama. Called the Lake Jasper House, the dwelling is situated on a wooded, hillside property in the Canadian town of Chertsey. The compact home encompasses 80 square meters across 3 square stories.